Hi everybody, I'm Gwendolyn Sterk at Sterk Family Law, and today I'm with Amy Schellekens. Hi Amy. So today we're going to talk about something that relates to all of you parents that have children with special needs, because there's a major shift, isn't it?
There was a recent letter opinion from the Department of Labor speaking about FMLA coverage for children with special needs.
Okay, hold on. Let's not use those words without telling everybody what it means, Amy. What is FMLA?
FMLA is the Family Medical Leave Act. It protects employees, so primarily parents is what we'd be looking at. Protects parents from taking time off of work for medical related appointments, caring for loved ones. It can be taken all in one chunk or actually sporadically.
It's interesting because they specifically in this letter opinion address the issue of IEPs, correct?
Correct. Specifically, they address IEP meetings through the school district for services that your child would receive that are in special needs medical related. So speech therapy, occupational therapy, physical therapy, those kind of things.
So what do you have to do? You have to fill out the paperwork, right?
So essentially what the letter opinion says is that any individual that qualifies for FMLA coverage under ordinary circumstances, an IEP meeting would that actually count towards that FMLA time off.
Okay, so let's just backtrack a little bit. I have a child with special needs. I need to get that child therapy. That would be covered, correct?
Actually, that would be covered even outside of IEP meetings as well.
Right.
But for the IEP meeting specifically, what the letter opinion says is that you are securing those services through the school district for that child. Therefore, the actual IEP meeting, despite the fact that it is not at a medical location, does qualify for the coverage.
Well, what's interesting though is that you have to get all these forms filled out in order for your, you know, FMLA to count. So tell us about how that's going to work.
In preparation for your IEP meeting, generally the school is actually going to contact you and say you need to contact your child's pediatrician to make sure that any kind of referrals or prescriptions are written to make sure that your child can receive those coverage. That is actually the paperwork through the school that would then be submitted to your employer. You wouldn't necessarily, as what the letter opinion says, need a specific referral or diagnosis from your physician, just the paperwork that's submitted to the school.
Okay, so let's just walk this through. We have FMLA, which means that we can take a certain number of weeks off during the course of a year.
Correct.
And it can be used sporadically. You can use it an hour at a time. You can use it a week at a time, whatever it is that you need, correct?
Correct. And so basically once you would receive the notice from the school that you're going to have an official IEP meeting, this can't be a meeting where we're going to discuss potential behavior problems at the school, but the actual official IEP meeting. You'll receive notice from the school district. All parents must receive that pursuant to law as well. You would then submit that paperwork to your employer saying, I have an IEP meeting and I'm covered under FMLA for that time off.
Now, let's just go one step forward. You go to the IEP meeting, the school cannot accommodate your particular child. So you need to go out and interview other schools and work with the school to get a placement into the future at an alternative setting. Will that also count?
That will also count. According to, again, the opinion letter that discusses the IEP meeting as well as the coverage, it essentially says that that's going to fall under the provision of you are providing services or locating those services for your child.
Got it. Now, let's talk about the additional services that maybe you're interviewing the school or you need to follow up with parent-teacher meetings related to the IEP. Will all of that count?
Not the specific meetings if you're meeting with the teacher to follow up on an IEP. If you're interviewing schools or potential schools looking for the appropriate services, that will be covered under FMLA coverage. However, if you're having a meeting with the teacher just to check in on progress, that will not be covered under FMLA.
Okay, so let's just change the scenario. I already know that I have a child with special needs. I have the FMLA paperwork in with my employer. I now bring them the meeting notice for the IEP and they say, this isn't going to be covered. What do you do in that circumstance?
So actually there is the letter opinion that you can access through the U.S. Department of Labor. That's your best option. Quite frankly, even the letter itself mentions that this is kind of a unique application of FMLA and that employers need to be wise about it and train their employees and train their HR departments. But if your employer doesn't know, certainly bring them the letter.
Absolutely, because I think a lot of times there's a lot of confusion related to it. Now, just because you're on FMLA doesn't mean you're getting paid time off work, though.
That's correct. FMLA only protects that you can't be fired for taking that time off. It does not say that you'll be paid.
Right. So the other problem comes in is if you use all your vacation time, then you could go on FMLA. But if you take vacation time at the beginning and then go out to that meetings, and you can't retroactively apply for FMLA either. So you really have to be prudent about what you're doing in terms of the time over the course of a year.
Yes.
You know, and life happens. You might have an ill parent, you might have a child, you might have an illness yourself, so you really got to be prudent in how you pursue it.
The other thing that the letter opinion also actually discusses at length as well is 504 plans, which is similar to an IEP,
Right.
but a little bit of a scaled back. The letter opinion doesn't necessarily extend to 504s at this point because of the different phrasing between the IEPs and 504 plans. So
Well, what
if
do you
you're-
mean different phrasing?
Well, essentially, IEPs are medical focused.
Sure.
504 plans don't necessarily have to be.
Okay.
So the letter opinion is not clear on whether 504 plans would qualify for FMLA coverage.
Mm-hmm.
However, it's just kind of a gray area at this point until we receive an updated opinion letter from the Department of Labor.
Got it. Now, if you had a question with regard to the FMLA leave, obviously we're not employment lawyers here.
Correct.
So you would seek the advice of an employment lawyer, correct?
That's right.
But at the same time, if you needed information just simply about the
About your options for your
Right.
children with special needs, you can certainly give us a call. We can look through and help you plan for the future.
right, and doing the letter opinion, etc.
Correct.
You know, I think that, and we had a good discussion in another context today about the fact that life happens and sometimes you feel paralyzed by the process, right? And especially if you have a child with special needs, you don't necessarily want to take the time to understand everything, or you don't want to take the elephant out of the room and deal with it, right?
That's right.
And I think that it's important that maybe in the context of FMLA, as well as dealing with your special needs options, you really have to investigate it.
Absolutely. I think having a child with special needs has you looking at many different areas,
Right.
legal, non-legal, caring for them, medical provisions, even your estate plan. Everything
Right.
is really going to be impacted by having a child with special needs.
You know, I feel very passionate about the puns list, and so I don't want to end any
Yes.
podcast here without talking about it. Tell and express to our audience or our listener the importance of it.
Honestly, my advice to every person with a child with special needs, no matter if you think they're going to be able to be on their own at some point or not, get your child on the PUNS list as soon as you possibly can. If you don't need the services when they're pulled off the PUNS list, you can cancel it. But if you need those services, it is absolutely necessary to be on that PUNS list.
Okay, Amy, but what about the parent that's listening and says, what the world is the puns list? Tell us about that.
The PUNS list is essentially how you're going to receive services for your child. It can be anything from respite care to if you're going to be looking into a SILA or assisted living for your child. Those services are going to be paid through by having their child on the PUNS list.
Got it. So the message today is understand that you certainly have rights, because I think that parents, with the amount of time necessary to care for a child with special needs, feel paralyzed, or they feel that they are alone in this process. But this is just another example of something they can tap into.
That's right. And I think actually that's exactly what the letter opinion addresses, is that having a child with special needs does take a lot of time, and that's why the FMLA needs to apply as well.
That's great. So if you have a child with special needs, please reach out to us or get the information that you need. Make sure you're on the PUNS list. Make sure you take care of your guardianship. Make sure you take care of your supplemental needs trust,
Yes.
and learn, because there are available remedies and alternatives for you, but people just need to get that information. All right. Thanks a lot.
Thanks.
We'll see you later.